This is Ms. Hinsman, and I'm an education assistant working with Algebra 1 and geometry classes at Corvallis High School. I want to show you one way I'm using math in real life right now in my free time, which I don't have quite enough of. I am making masks that I donate to the Corvallis Sewing Brigade, and then they distribute them throughout the community. This is May 9th, and they've distributed over 15,000 masks so far. Now, I've only made 59 of those, so I'm trying to do better at making the most masks possible that I can in the limited time that I have. And I can use math to help me do that. This is the basic mask that I make. It's based on a rectangle. So you start out with a rectangle of fabric, and you actually need 2 pieces of fabric because that provides better protection. And then you sew a little bit to make this final product. It's got some pleats in it, so I can open it up where it's wide in the front but narrower on the sides. The elastic goes around my ears, and my masks helps protect all of you if I have any kind of virus or illness. So if everybody wears a mask, we're all protecting each other, and we're going to help keep illness out of our community. Now, to make the mask, I make different sizes, but the one that fits me best is based on a rectangle that measures 6 inches by 9 inches. And one way that I'm using the math is trying to figure out what's the most rectangles I can get out of a particular piece of fabric. So here I've got some nice, lovely Spartan blue fabric, and let's say that I want to make a bunch of masks out of this. I'm not going to just take my rectangle of fabric and, I'll just cut out this piece right here from the middle, because that's going to waste a lot of fabric along the edges. So I want to cut my fabric as efficiently as possible. When I buy quilting cotton, the fabric is always 44 inches wide. That's this dimension here. That's how it's woven at the manufacturers. It's always 44 inches wide. And then I decide how much I want to buy. So I didn't really know how much to buy, so I just bought a yard of a bunch of different fabrics. A yard is 36 inches. So this rectangle is 44 inches this way and 36 inches this way. And my mask is 6 by 9 inches. What's the best way to lay this out so I can get the most mask possible from this fabric? When I cut my fabric, I don't use scissors. I use a rotary cutter and a mat, and this allows me to cut quickly as long as I'm just cutting straight lines. So my fabric gets folded so that this is the 44 inches, but it's been folded 4 times, so it looks like it's 11 inches. It makes it fit on my mat easily. And what I need to try to do is figure out how I want to lay out my rectangle. So I could cut a strip of fabric that's 9 inches wide, and I would do that, sorry, going handheld camera here. I would do that by lining up my ruler and measuring out 9 inches wide, and then taking my rotary cutter and just slicing the fabric that width. And then I would have a strip of fabric that's 9 inches wide and 44 inches long, and I would cut that into 6-inch lengths to make my masks. But maybe it's better to lay out my rectangles this way. This would mean cutting 6-inch strips of fabric and then taking each strip and cutting out 9-inch masks. I want to know if one way of laying it out is better than the other. Do I get more masks if I lay it out vertically or horizontally? When I first started making masks, I used this pattern that was developed by a nurse, and she designed it to be a mask that fits her particularly well. And for this pattern to work, you have to place this edge along a fold of fabric, so the actual mask shape looks like this. That's an irregular pentagon. It has 5 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this would go over her nose, and this would be at her chin, and it fits particularly well. But if you're interested in using your time and materials efficiently, this mask isn't a great design for that. It's kind of hard to cut this out. I have to use scissors, and that takes a lot of time. It also wastes fabric because I can't line the masks up to use up all the fabric perfectly. I'm going to have gaps or holes in the fabric. So the beauty of using a rectangle is it's a shape that will tessellate. So here's one math idea that I use when I'm making masks. I want a shape that'll tessellate. What that means is I want a shape that's going to use up my fabric perfectly and fill the whole plane of the fabric. So if I use a rectangle shape and I align it carefully so that the edges are parallel with the edges of the fabric, I wonder if I can use up all the fabric perfectly. I know if I use an irregular pentagon, there's no way to spread out my tiles on my fabric so that I can use all of the fabric perfectly. I'm going to be wasting fabric, and I'm going to be wasting my time trying to cut out pentagons. So that's one math idea that goes into making masks. Here's my scale model of my fabric, and I know this barely fits on my camera. I've got my 36 inches going this way. I used graph paper and I counted out 36 squares going this way. So each square represents an inch. And then I counted out 44 squares going this way. So that's what my fabric looks like. And this is a scale model of a mask. It measures 6 inches by 9 inches. The question I'm trying to answer is, does it make a difference if I line up the masks vertically like this? Or would it make more sense to line up masks horizontally? Or does it not really make a difference? The interesting thing is that with a 6 by 9 mask and with 36-inch wide fabric, I can fit in exactly a certain number of masks no matter which way I decide to line them up. This is an integer number. If I go vertically, I can fit 6 masks across the 36-inch side of the fabric. Or if I go horizontally, I could fit 4 masks going across. And they both divide evenly into 36, so there's no wasted fabric at the edge. My masks are going to fit perfectly, and that makes me happy. I'm using my fabric efficiently. Let's look along the vertical dimension. Does it make a difference whether I line up my masks vertically or horizontally? Let's start out with my vertical masks. And I could tile the whole plane. I could put in every single mask, or I could just kind of look at what's going to happen along this edge. And if I do that, then I see, yikes, I've got a problem. I'm trying to lay out my masks, and I've got 4 fitting, but my 5th mask goes over the edge. Now, if we think about that, my fabric's 44 inches in that dimension, but I'm laying out 9-inch masks. So if I try to use 5 masks, 5 times 9 is 45 inches. I'm out of fabric. I don't have 45 inches. I only have 44. There's no way to get a 5th mask up there. So I'd be stuck if I lay out my masks this way. The most I'm going to get is 4 up, 6 across. That's going to be 24 masks. Let's see if I can get any more masks if I rotate them and lay them out horizontally. If I lay them out horizontally, I'll only get 4 across, but I'm not wasting any fabric. It still fits very efficiently. And now I have the small dimension along this side. So let's see if I can fit, how many I can fit along the 44-inch edge. All right. So I've used that space pretty efficiently. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 masks. 7 times 6 is 42 inches. So I have just a little bit of waste up here at the top. I'm really using that space very well. I've got 7 masks this way and 4 masks this way. That's 4 times 7, 28 masks. When I had it set up the other way, I only got 24 masks out of it. If I line up my masks vertically, I can get 6 across, but only 4 masks vertically. 6 times 4 is 24. I only have 24 masks. Some smart visual thinker out there might say, well, that space isn't really wasted. It's 8 inches. You could come in here and put in some masks horizontally, and look at that. You could get 28 masks out of your fabric after all. Yeah, but you're making it very difficult for me to cut. I'd have to fold the fabric one way to cut off this strip first, and then fold it the other way to cut all of these strips. So it happens to work for this particular mask dimension that I actually could get the 28 masks this way, but not very efficiently. And when I changed to do other sizes, like a children's 5x7, one way is going to make more masks than the other way, and my leftover fabric isn't going to be enough to get more masks at the top. So I'm going to think mathematically when I'm cutting out my masks to try to make the best use of both my time and my fabric. And math helps me do that.